Hello and welcome to this episode of Disrupt Your Now, the show for entrepreneurs who are sick and tired of checking off the boxes. This is for people who are like, you know what, this is my life, this is my business, and I'm going to make it anything I want. And tonight, our guest, Mark Milen, can not only help you do that, he has disrupted his own now when he uprooted and moved from New York City to Florida. Hello, Mark, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Lisa. Thanks for having me again. So good to see you.
It's great to see you too. But so I'm going to do a really quick intro. Mark is one of the top procurement experts in the U.S. He'll probably tell me he's not, but he is. And look, y'all, his clients are not only some of the largest companies in the U.S., but in the world. And Mark is here to share with you how small businesses can use procurement and cost savings to not only, of course, increase your bottom line, but also increase the value of your business. So if you want to sell for retirement, by saving money, you're even making more money in the long run. And the thing is, the tips that Mark has to give you, yes, he works with big companies, but the things that he is going to talk to you about, businesses, the smallest businesses out there can take advantage of it. So, Mark, I'm so excited to see you again.
Likewise. Lisa, thanks for such kind and nice intro. And I guess the hardest goal for this evening is for me to live up to a smidgen of what you just build me out to be. So,
no. Well, okay, I want you to tell the audience a bit about you, your background, because probably a lot of them don't know anything about you. So how'd you get to where you are now?
All right, fantastic. Thanks for that. In a nutshell, I'm a total procurement geek. I've been in sourcing and procurement for the past 25 years. I authored a book on transformational procurement and just have tremendous passion and drive to seeing how procurement can tie to overall corporate objectives and produce the value for organizations of any size, for organizations in any industry, any vertical, anything that is needed. Just the ability to actually concretely drive results and help profitability by streamlining the process and helping the company from within. So in 2019, the idea was born and it came to fruition in terms of starting an organization that is focused on cost control and cost cutting for organizations that are mid to small size, and helping them in terms of giving them access to some of the best procurement practices, some of the tricks of the trade, if you will, that large organizations invest millions of dollars, and offering it on fractional or an as needed basis to really help negotiate specific deals or help with specific initiatives. And so far, it has been a tremendous ride, some happy clients, and lots of learnings, which is the best part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, I know some of your deals, and you have saved some people some amazing amounts of money, but I also want to say the way you get paid is based on what you save people, right?
Yeah, you know what? I think consulting has almost become a little bit of a dirty word.
Yeah.
Dirty word from the perspective that you're selling advice and you're selling, if you will, concepts that may or may not work.
Yeah.
We take pride in actually being tied to our clients' success. We only get paid if our clients succeed, and we only get paid on percentage of savings that we get. Otherwise, the analysis, everything else is free. So we sleep better at night knowing that if we're getting paid and we're growing and we're being profitable, that means that we're bringing magnitudes of benefit to those we're working with, and most importantly, cherishing those partnerships and ensuring that they're continuing to be successful for years to come.
It would be crazy for people not to work with you, because the thing is, normally they'd be like, oh God, I can't afford to spend X amount of money hoping that I'll save multiples of that X amount of money. Instead, they get to be like, you know what? If this person believes in himself that much, why shouldn't I believe in him? Because it's not costing me anything, right?
Yeah, it's and you know what? The interesting piece is as well, this isn't any kind of, ego exercise or trip to say, oh my gosh, we can do this better than the business owner, him or herself. Absolutely not. At the core of it, we actually partner with the businesses and we follow their direction and we follow what is strategically important to them. We execute on it. We supplement with the knowledge that we have. We seek those partnerships. But the best results are those where you're doing it in conjunction with the client that you have and you're aligned strategically with where you're delivering. So it's just looking at it from a different perspective, bringing different set of tools, and if you will, Lisa, enabling clients to focus on their core competency, on running their business, on growing it, on being the best CEOs, entrepreneurs, best business owners they can be, and making sure that we're supplementing that with tangible results. So far, we've been very fortunate. We have not had any engagements where we work for free, meaning we've produced results for everybody so far. And we've had 100% repeat business, which has been terrific. So it's been just an incredible journey.
That is great. And I know that you make a real priority of doing it within the company culture.
Yes.
So to the audience, what I want to explain is y'all probably think of cost cutting and procurement as, okay, we're going to slash costs here, slash costs there. How many people are we going to lay off and all that stuff? But that's not it. There's so many other ways that you can save money without affecting your efficiency, without affecting your employees or anything negatively, actually making everybody's life better. And there was one thing that you told me about a couple years ago, and it was the travel stuff for one of your clients. Can you share that with the audience?
Absolutely. I'd love to share that. And you're absolutely right, Lisa. I think, to me, hacking costs in terms of labor and headcount certainly does impact the bottom line. And it certainly is very evident and very immediate in terms of where things are. But oftentimes, it almost has a boomerang effect. It's cutting your nose to spite your face.
Yeah.
Your people are your asset. Those are that's the core of your organization. And if you're cutting into it, you're actually sabotaging yourself potentially for future growth. So I think there's so many different avenues where you can explore costs and efficiencies, and most importantly, value that you're creating for the organization. Yeah. Are you, in essence, paying the best price for the goods and services that you're getting to drive the best business outcome for yourself? That's really the core of it. And unless you really understand what the prioritization is, what your spend looks like, and what your strategic objectives are, it's difficult to accomplish that. It's also difficult to accomplish unless you're paying attention to how your suppliers are performing, your continuity of supply, potential supply chain disruptions, and really minding it 24/7 so that you can sleep better at night, knowing your business is optimized to the max and actually driving it. One of our clients indicated that had they had access to this service, the sale price of their company would have been up to 40% higher. Which was absolutely incredible. Looking at it, and this was a multi-billion-dollar deal, he literally indicated, he goes, I wish we had it. I wish there was something like it. We didn't want to maintain it internally because it was expensive and we couldn't get the experts, and we were really kind of far this M&A path, but it works. And, it's just amazing to hear it. In terms of travel, you can look at things and drive really combinations and say, all right, we're not going to disrupt how you consume travel. We're not going to disrupt where you go, how your people travel, where you basically go to expand your business and how you earn your business.
And how far in advance the employees have to book and which airlines and which hotels and all that.
Forget that, Lisa. I mean, honestly, that is business stifling. If we're to put rules in place to say, oh, you have to book 3 weeks in advance, and you only fly certain times, and you only do this, you're going to lose some of the deals. And that's not the point. To your earlier remark, in terms of procurement is not about a disruptor in terms of hindrance to how you're running a business. It's a complement. We look at it as a disruptor because it's a different way of looking at the problem and different solution to it, but it's in sync. It is aligned with how you run your business. So point was, a lot of money saved by actually understanding how our client consumed travel, what their specifics were, how their employees actually like to travel, when they like to book, and then reaching out to travel agencies and airlines to actually tailor the solution to them, which resulted in savings. So it is not that one size fits all. It is, let's understand what the size is, what the intricacies are.
Take your measurements. Take your measurements and have custom apparel made. Except
Absolutely.
in this case, it's procurement.
Absolutely. I think that's really the win-win outcome for everybody, and something and a solution that your own people as the business owner would subscribe to. There is no point in the travel example of creating something that nobody wants to utilize, that nobody wants to consume, and saying, well, this solution saves X amount of dollars. It's dead savings. It needs to be practical and it needs to work.
And it needs to not cause resentment within the employees, because a lot of those things can feel like perks, but then when you make it hard for them or make them stay in hotels that they don't want to stay in or whatever, or fly airlines they hate, then it's not a perk, it's a burden, and you're asking for them to either stay there and be miserable or go somewhere else.
Exactly. Or necessitating them, for instance, to buy lowest possible fare, one of those fares that they basically charge you for the air you breathe and hundreds of dollars for your bag and everything else, and it ends up being way more expensive. So the purpose is not to be, penny wise and pound foolish, but to really understand the extent of it and create a solution that would be well accepted, that would have good adoption rate, and where both partners would actually feel satisfaction and gratitude from partnering with each other.
Yeah. Well, I remember another client, and I'm sure you have a million news stories, but this is one that I think anybody can relate to. That small, I believe it's a marketing agency that needed laptops, and they only needed a few. So tell them about that.
Oh, absolutely. So this was one of the earlier stories, and I think this was actually one of our, maybe the very first client. They actually only needed about 10 laptops. And the point was they wanted MacBooks, right? So for anybody who's purchasing MacBooks, or anybody who feels that their business is not sufficiently large to take advantage of procurement, or to say, you know what, I need scale in order to drive volume discounts.
Yeah.
This kind of went to prove that paradigm completely incorrect. The point was, everybody knows you can't walk into the Apple store and be like, oh, I'm going to buy 8. This is going to totally make or break your business and give me massive discounts. They're going to laugh you out. So the point was, we took a look at the price. We took a look at the refresh cycle. We took a look at apps and software that needed to be loaded on these machines. And we also took a look at where are people working from and how to deliver this to them. We also then took into account, how is this company actually consuming it? Are they buying it? And is this a capital type expense? Or could we actually do a fully baked in lease with all elements of what's needed, and go through financing organizations and actually say, you know what, we're going to use it for only 3 years. We want warranty. We want the following software. We don't have a huge volume, but we also want to have the flexibility that whoever comes in and joins this organization, they'll be able to get the same laptop and kind of propagate the services that we need. Long story short, instead of paying about $3,200 a laptop, in this instance with MacBooks, it ended up being a fully operating lease with everything on it and warranty on 3 years at about $36, which was just incredible. If you look at it, 36 times 36, you're getting a tremendous value. Not to mention,
that is just, it blows my mind every time I think about that.
Lisa, another benefit, fully tax deductible, right? So it's an operating lease and carry forward.
And when they got new, they would be able to get new ones every couple of years, right?
Every 3 years, they get brand new ones. And because the lessor, the leasing organization is actually partnered with Apple, if somebody was to drop that laptop or destroy it somehow, they get a brand new one. No extra cost, nothing to it. Just continue moving forward with it just like it was.
That's amazing. And Mark, what I love about what you do, it's like a puzzle. You're like on a scavenger hunt. You're like, okay, these people need this. Where can I go find it? What's the best deal I can find? It just seems like it's a lot of fun. I know it's a lot of work and a lot of research and a lot of negotiating and all that, but it seems like it's a lot of fun as well.
It is a blast, and we want to make it contagious as well. We want our clients to see how much fun it actually can be, given the fact that many of them are apprehensive and they view it as being just hardcore negotiations. Look, in most instances, you're actually buying something for your business, whether you're in food and beverage, whether you're in finance, whether you're in consumer goods, or whatever the situation may be. 90% of the time, you're partnering with those organizations who actually support you at the core, and with whom you need to develop partnerships. So treating it as a battle, treating it as a beatdown in terms of, this is going to be an unpleasant experience, and we need to get the best, lowest cost out here, and then turn our back and hope it never happens again, is actually wrong paradigm. That's a complete fallacy. You need to make it a true win-win, and it's not a cliche. There are ways to accomplish that, and you need to make it lasting, because if you do get a discount now, but you introduce 1,000,001 different change orders, you change scopes, you actually erode that value. And unless you're monitoring and managing how is your supplier performing according to your KPIs and SLAs, irrespective of your deal value and the size, it can impact your business very adversely. It can impact your bottom line, and you may start seeing deterioration of the savings that you thought you're getting. So at the end of the day, you're looking at it saying, gosh, I didn't get the deal that I thought. The savings are not real. Is it the procurement? It's not. It's how you're managing it and where you're going with it. And are you treating your suppliers as true partners?
Yeah. And when you treat them as true partners and they're winning and you're winning, that's a long-term relationship that everybody can do better on. And, anybody would rather keep a client than go find a new one. So they want to work with you. My husband used to work for a company that I would say, this is, to me, I'm not a procurement expert, you are, so you correct me if I'm wrong. To me, the biggest mistake that I see business owners make is they just, I mentioned earlier, they just go slash costs willy-nilly. All they're doing is looking at the bottom line, especially if they want to sell. So he was working for this company. Everybody loved working there. It was a fun company. It was great. He had great perks, and they were very profitable. But then the owner decided he wanted to sell. So they started, my husband was on the road 5 nights a week. Well, he was going 4 nights, Monday morning to Friday evening. So he was going all the time, but it was worth it because we got all this travel stuff built up and, and everything. Everywhere we went ended up being free. But then it became, they started making them stay at crappy little hotels and, nickel and diming them on what they were eating. And he didn't eat frivolously anyway. I mean, Tom's very thin. He didn't eat a lot, and they just kept doing things like that made the employees miserable. Then they started some of the things parts that they had made in-house, like at a galvanized, whatever, because I'm not a production person, they started ordering from China. And they ordered an entire container full of this one part that was a critical part, not only for operation, but for safety. And, poured, I don't know how many thousands of dollars into that container of goods. And they got here and they didn't work. And they literally lost all that money. So long story short, they did not sell the company. This has been like 15 years. They cut everything to the bone. Employees were miserable. They were leaving. Sales were tanking. Customers were angry. I think now they have finally built back up to maybe around where they were before. This has been like 15 years. And that's just an example of if they had worked in, this is not a huge company, but it's a good size company. And if they had worked with you, they probably could have sold and made a great return on what they had invested in the company, and their employees would have been so much happier and everybody would have been better.
15 years ago, I was in high school, Lisa.
I know. Well, didn't you go to college when you were like 15?
I was older than 15. I was 16.
Mark is a boy genius. He's a child genius, y'all, because you were really young when you got your master's, weren't you?
It's relative terms. I look back at it from this vantage point going, I was very young. Yeah. It didn't feel so back then. But you know what? Here's what it is. I'm sure that if I'm lucky enough to make it another 20 years, I'll look back to today and be like, that was very young. but certainly there are these aches and pains every morning that I'm like, okay, and that wasn't there.
Shoot, I could probably be your mother.
Oh, come on. Not by the looks.
No, I'm going to be 62 next month. So
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Early birthday.
Thanks. We're totally getting off base. So, but yeah, so talk about that. If somebody out there is interested in positioning their business for sale, and look, y'all, only about a third of the businesses ever sell, and ones that do go for maybe half of what the owner think it's worth. So if you really want to be able to sell your business, it's never too early to start planning. Literally, the day you start your business, you should start planning. But if you haven't been, now is the time. So talk with them about that, Mark.
Yeah. So M&A is one of the most interesting disciplines and one of the most interesting events that happens in the life cycle of any organization, right? And procurement certainly plays a very good part. What you just shared with us with respect to your husband and the company he worked for is one sad example of what really happens when you don't execute well and when you're minding the costs above everything else.
Yeah.
So costs, procurement, in my mind, yes, it's about tangible results, but it's about the value that you create. And that value is multifaceted. That value starts with your employees. It starts with the core of what you're doing. And it starts with understanding the impact that you have with the decisions that you're making. If you're making decisions to cut a few dollars here and there, and you're getting your own employees angry and less motivated, they won't produce, your revenue will suffer. So what have you accomplished? Nothing. While it is true that procurement drives, every dollar that you save goes to the company bottom line versus every dollar of revenue, there's a cost to actually producing that revenue.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, what are the parameters? How are you spending money? What are the critical elements and which suppliers are not interchangeable? What is the quality and where is it important? And what you can actually touch. Even with suppliers who are critical to your business and you cannot change them or shouldn't change them, there are ways that you can extract better value. You can take a look at what kind of elements like pull ahead. You can take a look at running market tests, seeing are you paying the right price. And I can tell you that 99.9% of the time, suppliers who are your business partners will work very nicely with you if they understand that you're asking them to reduce costs based on actual data and logic, as opposed to pulling the numbers out of woodwork and bluffing them. You're not only degrading.
You used a nicer word than most people would use.
You're not only degrading your reputation, but you're actually showing them that you're not serious about it. If you're able to demonstrate why and how and give data behind it and support it with understanding not only your business, but understanding their cost structure, you will be successful in reducing those costs. Another interesting element when you're looking at the M&A, yes, the more profitable your company is, the higher the sales price, and profitability can be driven by procurement. So take a look as you're eyeing your M&A and triage it, if you will, practically in three different elements. First element, your short-term goal. What is it that you're attempting to solve for? And which suppliers, which contracts, based on the expiries, based on renewals, pose immediate opportunity to extract some value? Keeping in mind the criticality to your business. Midterm and then longer term, in terms of what needs to happen in order for organizational change to facilitate or to materialize, yielding a better future state. Yes, certain things, just like in business and in evolution, are going to need change, right? We know the dinosaurs died because they couldn't keep up or they couldn't change. So we do need to evolve, but you have to manage the degree of evolution and change in your business, given the business climate, given the business culture, and what you're attempting to accomplish. If your M&A activity is 3 to 6 months from now, and you're, for instance, driving a change and impacting your contracts that are years from now on the expiry side, you're probably going to harm your business. You need to give yourself enough runway. You need to engage with right folks. You need to understand things and help segment and then devise the plan that you'll execute and show it to your investor or potential buyer in terms of where things are. And if you're showing them the trajectory to profitability and cost reduction, not only is it more sustainable, but it actually drives higher value practically.
Yeah, and because not only are there the tangible numbers that they can look at, they also, if you're showing them that you have data and that you are making decisions based on data and professional advice and everything, then they're automatically going to have more faith in you, and faith and trust lead to value because they're going to feel less risk. They're going to
Correct.
feel if they can trust you and trust your judgment, they'll feel less afraid.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And honestly, the quality of decision making is what this boils down to, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to make a supplier change, supplier's critical to you, and you're going to save 10%, but it's going to take you 8% to actually drive and facilitate the change with questionable adoption rate, are you actually doing the right thing for your business?
Yeah.
Or should you be looking at something different or better way of partnering with that supplier? So things to think about as opposed to just, taking an axe and hacking away at your cost and saying, well, I just hope this is going to look good on paper.
Yeah.
If it looks only good on paper, at the end of the day, that's what it becomes, a paper exercise, and it doesn't last.
Yeah, because people who are buying, they're not stupid. If they have the money to buy, they are smart enough that they have made that money somehow. And so, they're not going to just look at this year and go, or this month or this quarter or whatever and go, oh, yeah, they're so brilliant. Look at this bottom line. They're going to look at the long-term trends, and they're going to be like, wait, you're doing this and all of a sudden stuff tanked. And again, not being an M&A expert or procurement expert, I would think that would make them look even harder though. If they saw huge changes all at once, to me, that would be like a gut check to be like, I better look and see what's going on here.
Yeah, most of us operate on trust by verify type principle, right? And the verification, it would flunk if you're looking at it and saying, wow, all this cost savings activity in the past 6 months, how are we doing? Is it a house of cards that's going to collapse?
Yeah.
And is it unrealistic? And the second the two companies merge and maybe the demand goes up based on the volume or whatnot, did you position yourself well in terms of what this looks like? And are you making the right decision? Even post-merger, deciding which supplier is selected, it's not just a cost exercise.
Right.
There's elements that go into it, right? It's quality of supply. How are we managing disruptions? How are we managing potential shortages, right? We're coming out of a very deep global phenomenon and unfortunately, all the ramifications of COVID. But at the same time, it's how are we driving the recovery and where are we going? Are we able to keep up with demand or not? Mm-hmm. And where are you buying things from? If you're using 10 different resellers, but all 10 are going to the same source, you're not diversifying how you're getting it and you're not mitigating your risk. So really, it is understanding the supply chain and not taking it lightly because it can hurt. And I think taking it lightly and taking those careless, not calculated measures to quote unquote reduce cost is what actually gives procurement potentially bad name, gives consultants a bad name, and potentially results in bad outcomes.
Yeah, because most people, including myself, until I met you, I looked at procurement as either just the purchasing dudes down in the office that are like, whatever, they buy from their buddies or whoever gives them the biggest Christmas gifts, or the bullies that are like, that's usually one or the other of what you see. You don't see that much of it being a really scientific, systematic, but also human element that you put in there.
You made me chuckle. I think between the bullies and between, Nepo babies out there who are just functioning the way they are, it certainly can give procurement. And just imagine consultants in this space. Consulting is almost a bad word by itself. And then procurement in conjunction, I think it's enough to make most people walk away. But if you're talking just cost and the actual benefits, that's the value is. And if you're looking at procurement tactically, in terms of either procurement making decisions for the organization or driving it in a direction that is not sustainable, or we're just doing it for the moment, all of these are lessons learned. So you actually need to focus on the sustainability and recognizing that procurement actually is a support function for the organization.
Mm-hmm.
But a support function doesn't mean that it lacks strategy. It's a strategic support function where you actually demonstrate your value by understanding trends in your supply base, understanding new developments, understanding what pricing is doing, and understanding the cost breakdowns so that you can be effective at it. And to your point, it's almost like solving a puzzle, right? You're doing it cerebrally, but constantly in lockstep with what your business needs, with what your business units, if it's a large organizations, want. And most importantly, how do you enable them to focus on their own core competencies and producing what they're good at while alleviating an element of the job that it's not that they may not even be bad at doing it, but they may not be giving it enough attention and enough time to actually produce the best outcomes.
Right. And like you said earlier, we need to focus on what we're good at rather than nickel and diming and trying to save a little bit of money. And by the way, y'all, remember, you don't even have to pay Mark if he doesn't save any money. So he's free until he saves you money. Although we do know he will save you money. I'm curious what changes you saw during COVID. And I'm sure there were many, many, many. But what are some of the big takeaways from COVID that people can learn from?
I think it falls really into 5 buckets in terms of what we've seen across the industry and across all of our clients. First one was just unprecedented disruptions in terms of supply chain and vulnerability of those organizations who didn't plan properly in terms of disruptions and shortages that have resulted. Excluding labor issues, which I think are global at this juncture, understanding of where and how you're getting your key parts, your key ingredients, and this goes anything from organizations that are manufacturing to food and beverage ingredients and everything else, is really the key to providing sustainability of your own activities and durability of your own business. Oftentimes, again, organizations were very keen to say, oh, we have 10 suppliers for these. Guys, that actually harms your business. One, you didn't check where they're getting their goods or services.
Yes, 10 suppliers who are getting it from the same supplier.
And second, you've actually diluted the value that each one of them has to your business. So much so, they're not incentivized to actually help you out because you're a fraction of the volume of business they do. So you're not important to them. They're all buying it from the same source. You slept well at night going, I only got 10. We're just going to switch them and go at it. Well, they're looking at you the same way. Well, they're only 1% of our business. So even if they take the business elsewhere, it's not important. Build the trust, build the partnership, understand what's important to them. So lesson learned, understand where you're getting your critical components from, what is critical and what is not, what is interchangeable and what is not interchangeable. Second thing that we've seen is folks started pursuing savings as a matter of desperation. And they were looking similar to the example that you've indicated with your husband's company, where they're just looking at anywhere and anyhow in terms of reducing the expenses without looking at second, third order consequences or how that actually impacts their business. I can't tell you how many clients we've actually encountered who needed help resurrecting themselves from incorrect sourcing and cost-cutting decisions in terms of where things were and how things are done. So lesson learned, know where you're cutting cost. Certain things you can, and certain things you can act on quickly. Others, you actually need to drive evolutionary change in your own business before you're able to jump on and take advantage of where things are. Another third lesson, I think, across the industry was folks really weren't paying much attention to the current trends or latest development, either utilization of technology or emergence of new suppliers, new sources where things are, and looking at how to constantly evolve and bring your business in better shape. They were kind of doing the business they always have, and then boom, overnight, they were faced with a very different climate, with a very different consumer model, with a very different labor model, and they didn't know how to do it. Things that they needed to pay attention to really included understanding what are the developments in your own space, in your own industry, amongst your own verticals, and really having the spatial orientation to understand things. So third lesson learned, know what's going on, know what your competitors are doing, and know the capabilities of suppliers who you're counting on to get the job done. And are you actually keeping ahead of the times? Another lesson learned from our perspective was really looking at what were the cost drivers, right? It's interesting that I just read a major consulting report that says that majority of chief procurement officers fear inflation. Fascinating thing. These are the people who are responsible for cost cutting. They're looking at it as a fear. They're not looking at it as an opportunity to practice their craft and to actually improve how an organization does it. Fourth lesson learned from this example is really understand what opportunities you have and where is your business going. Are you looking at expansion? Are you looking at M&A activity? Are you aligning the entire functioning of your business with your strategic goal and with your strategic incentive? And the final lesson learned that we've seen, which kind of brought things into focus, is, and it goes back to precisely what you said, either the bullies or the nepotism approach. Are you looking at your suppliers fairly? And do you understand what their responsibilities are relative to your responsibilities? How are you evaluating their performance? How are you solving for issues that are not being done well? How are you recognizing them for things done well? And ultimately, are you rewarding those suppliers who are actually helping to drive your business and providing strategic value? So I think those are kind of the 5 components that we've seen across the spectrum of clients.
Interesting. So you wrote that book. What's it called? Technical Procurement? Is that right?
Transformational Procurement. Close enough.
Transformational Procurement. I'm sorry.
Technical, transformational.
I mentioned to you back when you were writing, I was like, oh, I need to read it. And you're like, oh, you're not going to want to read it because it's just a bunch of gobbledygook. Because I would say, is it really something that only people in your space would want to read? Or is it something that entrepreneurs or small business owners would enjoy reading and could take something from?
Well, first, I got to give credit where credit's due. And the credit for the book, I almost consider you to be one of the godmothers of the book. Don't call the baby ugly, whatever it is, it serves the purpose. But it was your motivation and your encouragement that actually brought the book together. One of our earlier discussions, so thank you for that. One of our earlier discussions, you said, why don't you just put it all on paper and make it interesting? There's so many different aspects. So it's not size or spend based for the organization. Small companies can benefit from it. Large companies can benefit from it. The book does contain procurement principles and best practices, but it's not geared to procurement professionals.
Okay, so an average business owner or entrepreneur could read it and get something out of it instead of their eyeballs crossing up.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be intuitive. Hopefully, the advice and the examples that are provided are going to resonate on a logical level with elements of lessons learned and how to navigate through some of the stuff. So I do think that it's applicable to plethora of business owners, to CEOs, CFOs, COOs, and most importantly, it is kind of step-by-step process of how to drive profitability for a business. By the way, the book's been out for about 2 years. Again, thanks to you. And interestingly, I haven't shared this one with you. It's doing great in Japan. I don't know why. I don't know how. It wasn't written for Japanese market, but it seems to be selling well in Japan.
Probably because of their love for efficiency and streamlining everything.
Maybe. So certainly, something to think about
really
as
cool.
new editions are coming out. And again, it wouldn't have been possible without you. You're one of the few folks who've encouraged me to do it. And looking at it, I thought, my God, how long is this labor of love going to take? And lots of late nights and all of that stuff. But thanks to you, it's
awesome. Well, I do need to get it and read it. But I do remember I was like, Mark, I got to read it. You're like, no, you wouldn't want to read it. Actually, that may have been before it was actually published, though. So you may have been in that time when all authors were like, oh, this is going to suck. Or we're looking at our own baby and going, damn, this is an ugly baby.
You know what? You kind of read it and it's like 200 pages of procurement concepts. Oh my God. Like who wants this? But I think you'd enjoy it. You wrote a nice recommendation for the book. I mean,
Oh yeah, I did. That's right.
you must have read it.
That's right. You did. You did send me the early version, but yeah, but I haven't seen it since it's published. So.
Good. I'll make sure I'll send a copy.
Well, you know,
It's somewhere here.
Ryan Garrett, you know, he's a sort of Colin's dad, the race car driver's dad that I work with. He's a certified exit planner now too, and so we are doing work together on M&A stuff. So
Awesome.
He needs to get the book and read it. Yeah, I think it would really help him, because we were talking the other day about how it's so important that people understand one of the main factors is minimize risk or decrease perceived risk. And
absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it goes hand in hand with understanding what is your strategy? Where are you driving your business? What are you accomplishing? What are you trying to say? You know, like Einstein, when given a problem, we know that he would spend 90+% of the time thinking about it. And then a fraction of that time executing on it and putting it into actual work. Well, it's the same thing. What does the strategy look like? What does your spend profile look like? How many categories do you have? Where is your greatest risk? Where is your greatest opportunity? When do you have contractual expiration and expiries? How does that look like? And how are you driving revenue as a result of your engagement? But again, everything really goes hand in hand with that strategy. And it's nothing to fear. That's the best part. It's like a challenging, fun puzzle that you look at different things, you put it in place, you mitigate disruptions, and ultimately, the coolest part from my perspective, you can see it working. You can see it working because it actually impacts your bottom line.
That has to feel so good. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Hold on. I just realized I don't have my computer plugged in. Just a minute. I'm sorry.
I won't go anywhere.
Keep talking. I don't want my computer to die. Sorry. Keep talking.
Here we are.
Keep talking. I can't believe I did that. It's not that low, but still. I just happened to look up. But yeah, that has to be so exciting to see it working, to actually see results.
Well, that's the best part. And honestly, that's why we put so much trust and faith in terms of how we get paid, right? Oftentimes you get dispensed, or you see an advice, or somebody gives you some concepts or a fancy PowerPoint, and you're like, okay, so how does this really help me? I mean, to kind of use an analogy, think about it. You can probably look and Google or search on YouTube, open heart surgery. I wouldn't recommend anyone who's not certified and has practiced it and has medical license actually doing it, despite of what you see and what advice is given.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing, right? Don't do something you're not comfortable with. You can actually create a lot more harm. And being left with the advice that you're like, that is not actionable, or somebody who's actually not sticking with you to see the results happen, it could be harmful. If you look at it, some of these, consultants are charging $20,000, $30,000 a day.
Wow. And then by the time you do that, are you ever going to save any money?
Well, not only are you not going to save money, you're left with uncertainty.
Yeah.
And they don't promise you outputs. For somebody looking at a couple of $100,000 expense for uncertain outcomes is a prohibitive model.
Oh, but heck yeah.
Right?
For the vast majority of companies. So I know you work with a wide range of sizes. What would be the smallest company you would probably work with?
The smallest company we worked with was under $1 million in revenue. And the largest that we have covered under the scope of Innovate was about $800 million in revenue. Okay. So it's a pretty big range.
The small one, how many people? Like, is it like a bunch of employees or like 5 employees or?
Four employees and about 800,000 in revenue. So it was an incredible success story, and it was a revamp of their supply base with kind of a threefold goal that we were tasked with. One, streamline the supply base and ensure continuity of supplies. Understand and build out the roadmap to actually execute, and if primary suppliers fail, who are the secondaries, and third, write a manifest that they could follow and have some, performance management metrics in place, giving them the autonomy and giving them the ability to continue driving through it. So it was a super cool exercise, and it was very pragmatic of the business leader. She was just on top of it, and she just wanted a robust plan that would be lasting and that she and the team could execute on. And it's working wonderfully, and she's doing great.
That is awesome. Yeah. So if somebody, I was going to say, I think probably most people, the biggest reason they wouldn't reach out would be fear. Either there has to be some catch to this, or embarrassment that, I don't want anybody to look at my mess,
Well, I mean, look, you're absolutely right. I think those are the two driving forces why people wouldn't. Mm-hmm. In terms of fear, in terms of catch, in our model, there is no catch. It is that plain and simple and straightforward. Mm-hmm. We work with you. Our success is actually your success, and we make you look good and drive your business better. And part of starting this organization was really driven by helping folks out.
Yeah.
Most of the folks who are part of Innovate had very lucrative and very good large corporate careers, and they certainly could have continued down that path and enjoyed wonderful retirements when all was said and done. It was driven by the desire to help somebody out, to help the businesses, and to help these entrepreneurs realize their dreams and fight for what is right and help them succeed. Give them a fighting chance by giving them all these tools that the heavy hitters use, and large organizations, and we're investing millions in it, that are proven and time tested and can really yield that value.
Doesn't that feel good, Mark? Doesn't that feel good to be able to help people like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're changing lives, not to be all melodramatic, but it's such a good feeling.
It's a good feeling to help them stay in business. It's a good feeling to help them use the money that they're saving to invest and to grow. It's a great feeling to help them do it, or to get a phone call and say, hey, we actually love the work that you did. Could you help us with something else? Here's maybe a little bit out of the box. We're thinking about it. And it's just so cool to see them become more comfortable with it and treat you like an extension of the team. Basically, like, we're not on payroll, but call us when you need it.
Yeah, your family. And you're contributing to the American economy, because every small business that we can help stay open is one more little cog in the wheel of our economy. Too many people focus on the large companies, and they forget about the importance of all these small businesses out here.
You know what's another super cool thing that actually came out of this is, even when you're dealing with some of the larger organizations, right? And sometimes you have to partner with them on the real estate side or whatnot. But to this day, they still call and keep in touch and be like, wow, working with that small business was so cool, and we typically wouldn't do it. But there is actually tremendous value for both of our organizations, and helping women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, startups, or just people chasing their dreams. Mm-hmm. It is so rewarding for all of us doing it. And the largest part of us doing it is precisely for that reason.
Yeah.
And really cool. Fear, nothing to fear. Look, we're not equally good at all things, right? In my example, I, reserve my own vocal skills and singing when nobody is, within hearing distance. So, and if
we're probably only going to hear you if we're in the shower with you. Is that right?
Pretty much. That's it. So, from that perspective, I think we just need to be comfortable that we're not equally good at everything we do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Perfect people. I don't know a perfect human specimen, right? I think if there was one, they probably would be in some case at the Met in New York, in terms of what a perfect human looks like. So capitalize on your strengths, understand where the weaknesses are, and most importantly, surround yourself with people who can help you navigate through some of those weaknesses, right? Mm-hmm. Or utilize the service where needed. And I think it's funny that, we kind of do it, whether it's, a hairdresser or oil change or whatever. We go to professionals. You could probably do some of it yourself. But when it comes to business, there is sometimes a little bit of ego or pride to say, oh, I can't do it. Or I'm too uncomfortable to admit we could use help. Why?
Yeah.
If it helps your business, do it.
Right. And it helps, and there's no risk. There's no risk. I've known Mark now I think I've known you for 3 years.
3.
3. And I've never heard anybody say a bad word about you, and I know personally that I just love you to death. You're the same Mark, no matter when I speak with you. So anybody out there who may be feeling a bit shy or whatever, just reach out.
Come on over.
If he cannot help you, he will tell you that he can't. But I would be shocked if you can't help somebody.
Absolutely. You know what? And again, we're going to be very transparent. If we can't, no skin off anybody's back. That means there's no charge, right? It's
right. That means you're not having to do work for free.
No,
You know,
exactly.
if you
Exactly.
can't help them, you don't want to try to help if you know you can't.
Absolutely. And to be quite honest, Lisa, you mentioned something. We've known each other for 3 years. The company is about 3.5 years old.
Uh-huh.
We're still in this growth mode, and there's nothing more rewarding than growing our business by word of mouth or reputational recognition. And to be quite honest, one of my favorite years in business was actually last year, where our entire growth, it was our most profitable year to date, and our entire growth, entire business development was solely predicated on word of mouth and referrals from current clients. And that to me was one of the most important and one of the most significant things that we've accomplished in our relatively brief existence.
Yeah, that's something to be really proud of.
It feels great, and it's always good to connect with those folks and to see what else is there and how else we can partner. And nothing makes me happier than when you get these phone calls from your prior clients or existing clients and being like, could we partner in the following? We've never done this before, but we want the expertise in terms of how to approach these suppliers. We want somebody to help critique. Are we signing up for the right thing? Are we going to be delivering? And are we going to achieve the right value and help us do that? And it's just so cool. I mean, you'll do anything to make them succeed.
That's awesome. All right. So tell everybody out there 2 things, or more if you want to, but how they can get your book and how they can connect with you.
Fantastic. Both relatively easy. The book is actually available on Amazon, and it's Transformational Procurement. So just key concepts in terms of driving the right business value. You can look at it there. You can also look at it through our website, which also contains our contact. Okay. And our website is www.joininnovate.com. And it will give you a link to the book. It'll give you a link to resources. It'll give you a link to some of the cool lessons learned and concepts. We're also going to be launching in the next 30 days a business group, a community, if you will, and we're going to be publishing some key articles on procurement developments and give you ideas where you can save money in your own business and how to drive some of the efficiencies. And we're really hoping to make it really interactive and cutting edge and how to utilize some of the AI concepts and everything else. So we're going to be combining technology with good practices and lessons learned. So that would be something to be on the lookout for. And most importantly, direct contact for me is mark.milen@joininnovate.com. More than happy to address any questions that come or engage or take a look or talk procurement. I really geek out when it comes to that.
And I highly, highly, highly encourage y'all to please reach out to Mark if you think at all that you could use his help, because you'll have a ball talking with him, and he will be honest with you. And Mark is in my book, Disrupt Your Now. He's one of the entrepreneurs that are featured who are featured in the book. So I appreciate you being in that, Mark.
Thanks for that honor.
Yeah,
much appreciated, Lisa.
Well, it was great catching up with you tonight. I've had so much fun talking with you and catching up and learning about everything you're doing or have done.
I can continue forever. So thank you again for the opportunity and for the honor. Always an absolute pleasure to see you. And if I could be of any assistance to anybody, just let me know. I want to see everybody succeed.
Yes, thank you. See you, Mark, and see everybody else next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.